This is an original short story from Held Stories, a living archive of quiet, human encounters. Here we try to create images of moments that are complete but not finished. Held Stories, Season 1, Episode 11, He Saw the Brooch Before He Met Her. Making his way to the grocery store, Marc took off his jacket. It was warm, and there was no breeze, just right to walk to the store. Walking in the front door, he was greeted by the most amazing scent. The bakery had just put some buns for sale on the rack, and they were calling. Gathering what little strength he could, Marc pulled out the grocery list he had made and walked in the other direction. Grabbing a shopping cart, he began gathering the required ingredients for his new creations that week. Up one aisle and down another, items filled the cart halfway by the time he reached the till. The cashier smiled and they exchanged pleasantries as she scanned each item one at a time. Marc made sure each item was only scanned once, as he had trouble there in the past. This employee seemed to know what she was doing, which made him relax a bit. Walking out with his goods, he noticed rain spitting on the pavement. Putting his jacket on and grabbing his groceries again, Marc ventured home. Up a hill and down a mountain he went, or so it seemed, carrying such heavy groceries in both arms. He made it home in record time, his arms feeling like rubber. His cat, Oscar, was waiting for him at the front door. Of course, Oscar would rub up against Marc and not help carry the groceries, but such was the life of a house cat. Putting all the groceries away, Marc sat on his recliner and turned on the TV. Slowly rubbing life back into his sore arms, he turned the channel to the news. War, pestilence, famine. He changed to the sports channel and started watching some American football. It took him some time, but he realized these were sophomores at small American colleges facing off. He leaned in, slowly rubbing both arms now, keen to see the score and how the players were formed. After 30 more minutes watching football, he turned off the TV and returned to the kitchen. His arms mostly recovered, lunch was on his mind. Since the thought of cooking for 3 meals was deterred by potential pain, a sandwich was in order. Salami on rye, with all the fixings. He cut the bread in Texas-sized slices and slipped them into the toaster. Once toasted, the mayonnaise, lettuce, and other ingredients were slapped between the slices. As he always loved a good crunch to these types of sandwiches, Marc finished by splitting the sandwich in half and sliding in the salami. Sitting back down on the couch this time, he decided to watch the end of the football game. The home team was down by 5 and there were only 2 minutes left in the game. This might prove to be a photo finish. Again, Marc leaned in, determined to let any droppings fall on the oversized plate he brought with him. An interception, settled cheers from the crowd, and the visitors ran the ball into the end zone. At the buzzer, Marc paid half a mind to the commentary as it appeared to be in an exhibition game and was not for points anyway. After the commentators proved his assumption right, he changed to the documentary channel. Discussions regarding the evolution of mating rituals filled the room. Currently, they were discussing American swallows. Perfect. Marc could finish his sandwich in relative peace. Nothing exciting to watch, he decided to take smaller bites of his sandwich. Considering what would be the case if he learned how to draw swallows, he took to arranging the feathers in his mind. Color patterns, combinations of wing positions. He leaned forward and began arranging the wings again. Time to clean the plate and empty the toaster of crumbs. He turned off the TV and took to wiping the counter down where he made the salami on rye and checking around for stray crumbs. Placing the plate back on the open shelf, Marc made his way to the backyard to watch the rain fall from his gazebo. Some rain touched his shoulders on the way, but it dried as soon as he sat down. Combining the documentary with his backyard, Marc thought of where a swallow might build a nest. There was an overhang on top of his house with a side under the overhang that would snugly fit a nest. The large evergreen tree, if there weren't any nests in there already. Marc began contemplating purchasing a birdhouse and a bird bath to place in the far corner of his pie-shaped backyard. When the rain let up, Marc headed back inside to do some work on his computer. Despite it being a Saturday, emails never end for a civil engineer. Sitting at the computer upstairs, he punched in his password and went to his email client. 20 emails awaited his attention. It took him about an hour to process all the conversations, but he persevered. After his computer was off again, Marc decides to lay down for an hour or so before he prepared dinner. Waking up, he checked the clock. 4:16. Perfect. He could slap together a quick dinner and see if his friends were meeting at the pub later. He texts one of his friends and they mention the crew will be at the bar down the street from Marc's place in 10 minutes. Even better, he didn't need to take a taxi there. He put on a pot of boiling water to make ramen and egg soup, eats, and heads out the door with little more than a t-shirt on his back and the sunshine guiding the way. After he arrived at the bar at 5, he scanned the room for his friends. They were in the far corner, so Marc makes his way along the outer edges of the dance floor where a few people would be in his way. On the dance floor, jamming to a remixed mid-70s song, is a woman in a t-shirt. What seemed to catch Marc's eye was the quick view of the shoulder and what appeared to be a beak. As he thought that was an odd placement for a beak, he shrugged and returned to joining his friends. They all cheered when he arrives, big smiles all around, and he waited for the server. Marc ordered his drink and stood near a bar table with Sherry and Mike, two newlyweds who couldn't wait to tell Marc about their recent trip to the Bahamas. A thrill for Marc to bear witness to every daily play-by-play of all the events the pair took in. He asked questions, completely inquisitive to the newlyweds' excitement to share these details. The happy couple eagerly responded. Once the stories were done, Marc was already sipping at his whiskey. He said farewell to Sherry and Mike and started perusing the other tables of friends. Roughly 14 showed tonight, which was unusual as 3 worked out of town most weekends. Marc made sure to check in on the 3 and see how their jobs were going. He quickly learned they were nearly out of work as the oil fields were drying up. Marc said he'd check his employer's job board and send them links. After spreading the good cheer of the happy couple Marc had started the evening with, he broke off from his friends and went searching for that intriguing woman. Some people, a bit too intoxicated to drive home, walked by Marc and cheered him. They clinked their glasses to his. He found the woman with a beak on her shoulder, and it was a swallow's head brooch that seemed to have been adjusted back to where it was more appropriate. "Excuse me, was that you I saw on the dance floor jamming?" Marc asked the woman. "Yes, I'm Madeline." She extended her hand, wobbling from a bit of weakness. Marc carefully shook it. "Madeline, how long were you on the dance floor, if you don't mind me asking?" "About 30 minutes. Not sure how many songs, but boy did I have a time. What do you do for work, Marc?" "I'm a civil engineer for the town." "Amazing job. I run accounting for micro, small, and medium enterprises. Would you care to join my friends and I? You seem to be one of the more clean-cut types here, and we would sure appreciate your presence." "Sure, Madeline." Marc searched for a chair, found one, and joined the quartet of women there. "We love dancing, but don't worry, none of us will leave you stranded." Madeline introduced the other women, one being her sister Marjorie, and their friends Emma and Isabella. Everyone there worked for the same accounting firm in different roles. Madeline kept Marc abreast of how she and her sister met their friends before they all worked together. "Every day is a party on our floor," Emma said. "Yeah, Madeline watches over us, but we get away with stuff," Isabella joked. "Are you the supervisor, Madeline?" Marc asked. "Yes, the certified public accountant," Madeline smiled. "I know good workers when I see them, and these are the best." All the women cheered and clinked their glasses. The party continued with Emma, Isabella, and Marjorie hitting the dance floor every time a certain type of retro music played. Marc ordered another triple whiskey and Madeline ordered 3 spritzers. As the women came and went from the dance floor, Madeline leaned in to hear Marc better. One by one, Marc's friends found him to say goodnight. He shook hands and hugged them until they were all gone. Shortly thereafter, Emma and Isabella winked at Madeline, hugged the sisters, and moved on home themselves. Madeline joked about the women who just left being lightweights. Once the chuckling was over, she mentioned to Marc they enjoy getting up early before the town wakes up to sip their coffees overlooking the creek. "It's a lovely view," Madeline shouted. "Come with me." She took Marc by the hand and led him outside, offered him a cigarette which he gratefully accepted, and she lit it for him with a wink. "I make no apologies for smoking. It helps." "I'm a social smoker myself, Madeline," Marc winked back. They began softer discussions about work topics and how their jobs weren't that amazingly different in intent. Marc described more of his role as the only civil engineer in town. Madeline made the connection that Marc was quite high in the political arena at the town hall. What a relief. I knew someone who loved his whiskey couldn't be half bad. Madeline wrapped herself around Marc's arm, led him to the bar. She paid the tab, and they left behind Marjorie. Madeline and Marjorie hugged their farewells. Marjorie then winked at Marc and smiled at Madeline. Madeline watched Marjorie disappear around the corner, faced Marc, kissed him softly, and whispered in his ear, "Now, there was us." This has been Held Stories. Held Stories is maintained as a living archive of created images of moments that are complete but not finished. Editions will be made available as they are prepared for those who wish to retain them and support their preservation. For those interested, please visit www.heldstories.org for more information.